All right, so now that we have all the different parts, what I need to do is get rid of all the previous parts that were there. So I'll just do a little bit of cleanup over here. So there's this part right here we don't need anymore, this part we don't need anymore, and this part we don't need anymore. So you can see there's a little bit of a variation, but I definitely have the initial gesture captured. And now that I've got all of these parts, I just want to make sure that the one I have down here is the right one, and this one I think we just wanted to keep for future use. And I also don't need this part right here, I don't need, because we already have that. So I'll just go ahead and start merging these parts together. So I'm just going to go ahead and merge. I guess there's two different ways of doing this. I could either merge them down one by one, or I can hide that one piece that we didn't want. So this is going to be the leg, and I just want to make sure no other piece is visible here. And it looks like there are some pieces visible in the legs area, but everything else is good. So now I've got, these are the only things that are visible. So I'll just go ahead and click on Merge Visible. And what that will do is it will go ahead and create a subtool for me that just has that leg. Okay, and so now another thing I can do here is create a new folder, and front leg. And what I'll do here is I'll start adding all these pieces for the front leg into it. So here is this piece. So these are just the front leg pieces. And just start moving all these into this folder, like so. So I basically have the front leg, all the pieces organized in that one folder. And then I'll just append that combined one that I just created, which is the merged one right here. And I'll hide this one. And then let's bring our mech back. And let's bring all of the different parts of our mech back, like so. Okay, and then I will go ahead and position this where it's going to go. So here, just move it over here into the front leg. And there it is, all official in its socket. And I might need to move down to the bottom here to adjust it to exactly where it needs to go. And it's a good idea, again, to turn transparency on to see that if that's going to be a good fit. It is. So we're assuming that there is some sort of technology that allows this to rotate within that socket. And it has a good range of motion. And also, the pivot of this entire leg will be, again, the center of that sphere. So here I'm going to turn transparency on again and resize the sphere so it's about the same size as the gizmo, about there, and then just position the gizmo to be at the center of that sphere. And rotate it, get that same, the size is going to be okay, but the position, I might need to go at it from 3 different angles. I think this is good enough. And so now we basically have the leg, we have the pivot in the socket, and we can position this within its range of motion to where it can go, and we can rotate this way as well. So we can start positioning this leg to where the other leg was. So I'm going to bring the other legs back and start positioning this about where this one was. Again, it doesn't have to be exact, but more or less. And also notice that I've got this going down a little bit more than the original one, but that's okay as well. I don't think it's hindering my design as much. And now that I'm happy with that, I will mirror and weld it to the other side, and we have our first 2 legs done. Okay, so now I will go ahead and go into the time lapse of the other 2 legs, or other 2 different legs, and then position them as well. I thought I would do this before then just to kind of give you an idea of the result. And let's go ahead and do those other legs now and position them. I ended up deciding not to time-lapse this one and actually do it as well, because I'm going to be using some new techniques that might be useful, so I'll include those in the workshop. So the first thing I want to do here is this part right here. I'm just going to duplicate it so I have a copy of it just in case I need it. And now let's go ahead and zero mesh it. And for the zero mesher here, I'm going to turn adaptive off and just go to half because I want this to be pretty low res when it's done. So zero mesher is just going ahead here and trying to zero mesh this and get the least number of polygons it can to represent the shape. So this first zero mesh takes a little bit longer, and if I need to subsequently do it, it's going to take a lot less time. So here it has zero meshed it, so I'm going to continue to zero mesh it at half. And as I mentioned here, it's going to take a lot less time than the first time to do that zero mesh. And then I will continue to do this a couple more times just because I want to get the lowest possible polygon count. So here we're getting less, and then this one will take a lot less time as well than the previous one. And probably will do it 1 or 2 more times, and each subsequent time will be less because it's got less polygons to deal with. And I think this might be a good place, maybe one more. So this might be a good place to stop. So at this point, the other thing I will do to reduce the geometry here is go to edge loop, and there is a function within edge loop called delete loops. And what that will do is it will delete loops that are greater than a 45-degree angle or don't have a 45-degree angle to them. So when I do that, notice here that there's a big chunk of loops that got deleted, which is fine. This gives me more of a hard surface shape that I want. And I can decrease this angle to get rid of some more of those loops. So I'm going to go here down to 30 and try that again. And then possibly they'll get rid of some more. But I think at this point, it's the shape is a little bit more complex, so it's going to keep it the way it is. Okay, so now what I want to do is start determining what this shape is going to be. So here, the first thing is that I've got that same socket here that I had earlier, and I also have included this ball joint from my kit bash kit to go inside of it, and I've also positioned this in kind of an isometric view. And what I want to do at this point is go ahead and start making these two parts look like they connect together. And I can do that in one of two ways. So the first thing I'm going to do is select this one right here and just mask off this top part and bring this down a little bit and change it. So this is a part, as I mentioned before, that I have somewhere else. And what I'm doing here is I am modifying it a little bit, but I'm not really messing with the top part. So in manufacturing, a lot of things they try to keep the same. So if they've done the research for that top part, they probably don't want to mess this up. So here I'm just moving the gizmo down and getting a good rotation angle for this. Now I've got to figure out the transition between this piece and the section over here. And I'm going to have a couple of hinges, one in this area right here, and then another one, and let me switch back to the foot here. So I'm going to have one hinge about here that's going to rotate, and then another one here. So there's the ball joint that's going to rotate the entire leg, and there's this one that's going to rotate this part up and down, and then there's one over here that's going to rotate this one up and down. So and again, all of this is coming from my reference images that show me how a crab's leg or a spider leg is, the anatomy of it. Okay, so here I'm going to go to transparency mode, and I'm going to use clip curve to get rid of this kind of part up top here. And also I'm going to mask everything except that part and move it into place like so. So this is what I'm moving over here, even though the gizmo is way out here. I can, I guess, move the gizmo over. And then let's go ahead and see what this looks like. And maybe I should turn transparency mode off for this and make that a little bit bigger like so to see if that makes a bit of a difference in that transition. And if this transition doesn't work this way, I might just add a kit bash part there to make it work. Okay, and it looks like I've got some jutting parts in here, so I'm using shift the smooth brush basically to move it back in. And I think for the most part this looks okay. I might just real quick add another edge loop over here, so just go to the Z modeler and just go to insert single edge loop and add one more over in this area, and then switch back to the move brush and move this into place like so. All right, so now I've basically got this part. I'm happy with this part over here. And this actually doesn't look too bad. The transition looks like it would definitely work somehow. I don't like this sharp angle in the bottom here, so I'll have to figure something out for that. But it's easy enough. And I'm going to try to do one thing here and see if that works. And what I'm going to do here is go in and crease and try and add a bevel in this edge. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to ZModeler and go to edge mode and go to crease, and I'm going to crease edge loop complete. Let's see if that happens in one shot, and that actually goes up, which I don't want to have happen. So I'm going to do edge loop partial, and that creases this part, that part, and zoom in here. This creases this part, and you can see the crease. It adds these dotted lines, and the reason why I'm creasing it, you'll see in a minute, is because there is a function in ZBrush under edge loop where you can go in under crease and bevel that creased area. So let me bring this back up, and let's go ahead and add a beveled angle to see if a bevel would help that transition a little bit better. It looks like it does, so I'm going to leave that there. And maybe let's see if I can add a little bit more resolution to that bevel, if I can get something better. That looks good. These corners are a little bit funky, but I think I can fix that. Let's see. Yeah, I can fix those with just by moving that specific point. And I like this bevel a little bit more, so let's take a look at the whole leg from a kind of a perspective, and I think that looks like it's definitely a feasible type of transition of the shape. And I don't even know if I need to do anything with those angles. Maybe I'll put some screws or something in there to make that work. All right, so ZBrush did a quick save there, and that quick save is very, very useful. It's definitely saved my hide a few times. Saved a lot of work, so I let that go through. I didn't actually leave the recording on for that, but yeah. So anyway, now I'm moving this leg in further just to kind of have it come out of that area. And I think that looks okay for now. All right, so then what I need to determine is where to put that hinge, and also how to make that, like, I don't know if I should be cutting this as a separate piece, or maybe saying that this piece right here is some sort of a rubberized piece that goes on top of the mechanics that's are outside. And so I need to make that determination. But in the meantime, let me put some cylinders there to signify the hinges. And for that, I will go to my kit bash kit over here and see if there are some cylinders that will fit the part. And it looks like there are. I'll go ahead and choose this one right here. All right, and then I'll use my macro to get that piece and paste it now into here, like so, and then just resize it, rotate it. I'm using Shift to discrete rotate it at 90-degree angles. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the center and resize this piece so it is in its appropriate location. And this seems to be working too, where it actually is part of that piece like that. And so this entire leg would swivel or turn around this hinge right here. Okay, so now that that's in place, I'll switch back to the leg and switch back to the move brush and start moving this to look like it somehow works with that cylindrical hinge that I just added. Okay, that looks good over there, and just moving these polygons to make it seem like it's covering it up somehow. Okay, so that looks like that hinge works okay over there. Maybe give it a little bit of room over here for that swivel, and then maybe tuck this part in and down a bit to show some sort of a, because when it does do that hinge, even if it's a rubber piece, it's going to have some sort of a crease or a fold over there. So just make accommodations for that somehow like this. Okay, so that's good. And so now we have that. And I think at this point I am deciding that this is going to be more like a rubberized piece that's going to go on top of electronics that are inside of it. And the only thing I'm worried about at this point is that this is tapering off, and then it's getting a little bit fatter over here. And you always want things to go big to small, so I'm going to try and see if I can make this work somehow, either by making this hinge smaller, but I think the hinge looks like it fits there, or maybe even moving the hinge a little bit to another location, maybe moving it up and over this way a little bit. So that the axes of the centers of the hinge and this ball socket match. And then switch back to this, go back to the move brush. And again, a lot of the decisions I'm taking here are dependent on my visual vocabulary. So a lot of the things I talked about in the reference section are in play while I am doing this design. That's why I'm making choices that somehow make sense. I mean, it is still fictional, but it is grounded somehow in a little bit of existing reality. And so having observed a lot of the things and doing my research, I know that that works. So this looks a lot better. It looks like it conforms, and then there's some sort of a piece in here, a metallic piece. And here it looks like it's got room to bend back and down, back and forth. And so this part here I'm good with. And I'm just going to do some minor adjustments here to this part. And then I got to figure out how to put one of these hinges in here. And a lot of times, same parts are used. So I'm going to use this exact same cylinder here. And by using Control and clicking on it, I can actually create a duplicate of it and maybe place that duplicate over here like so. And the good news is that it's also oriented at the same angle, so I don't really need to adjust for that. And I'll clear that mask, and I'll also split these into two different parts. So I'm just going to, I guess I could do that over here under split two parts. So now each one of these is a separate part. Switch back to the leg, go back to the move tool, and then start doing the exact same thing here to this part where I'm getting it to go around this cylinder somehow, where there's electronics underneath here to accommodate this joint from rotating, and somehow it is connected to this external part. And again, everything is low poly right now, and I can easily subdivide it and then add details, add alphas and whatnot to give it some sort of detailed shape. But a lot of times I can even probably get away with just leaving it this way, maybe doing some dynamic subdivision on it. Okay, so here we go. There is that part, and that is looking good as well. Now, one thing I need to do is, if these were separate pieces, was to separate them, but I think I'm not going to do that here. But I might separate just this one piece because I'm assuming that this is like a metallic piece that's coming out of it. So I think I'll do that now, where I'm just going to go ahead and mask this, these parts right here like that. And then go ahead and polygroup those as their own thing. So here I need to find the polygroup menu, which is right here. And in the polygroup, I'm going to say group masked. So now this is a different polygroup than the rest of the leg. And then I can just go here and click on split groups under subtool. Right, so group split. So now this is its own part. I've got a little bit of a problem here where with this one, I now have this area that's, oh man. Okay, I need to actually go back and add that part back. And I don't know if, let's see what happened. Okay, so I inadvertently added these parts. So if you run into this, and I guess this would be a good time to talk about that, is if I have a similar situation to this, what I'll do is go ahead and select lasso here and just select that part. And I'm going to split the hidden parts. So now I've got three parts. I've got this, this, and this. And what I'll do is I'll merge this one back down. So merge and merge down. Oops, cancel. I'm going to merge this with this. So merge down, that's correct. Okay. And now that's back, but I don't know if the points are connected. So for good measure, what I usually also do is go under Geometry and Modify Topology and click on Weld Points. I know the points are coincident, but I want to make sure that they attach. All right, so the problem I was mentioning earlier is this one right here, where I still have this hole to close up. And there's different ways of doing that. One quick way is to just go ahead and use close holes. I think that's the way I'll go with. And but of course it's not all quads here, and if I do want it to be all quads, then what I could do here is just go back and zero mesh this one more time, but I want to make sure I stay with the same number of polygons this time, and just click on zero mesh. And I think that did it right there. So that will fix that problem. And then I will do the same thing with the other part, which is this leg over here. So similarly, I'll just go in here and click on close holes, right? And then just go back to zero mesher. Now, if I zero mesh this though, it's probably going to add some topology over here, which I don't want, but I do have the shape that I want. So let's see what we get. So zero mesh, and that's okay. And then maybe I can just go in and manually delete these edge loops. So again, the way to do that is either by clicking on delete edge loop, or what I'm going to do here is just go to insert edge loop, and then with insert edge loop, if you hold the alt key down, it actually deletes the edge loops as well. But that way I also have this kind of prime to add an edge loop later on if I need to. So I'm going to leave some edge loops here at the beginning, and I'm going to leave some edge loops here at the end. And the way it's got the foot going is fine. So there's that. And let's take this off of solo and see what we have so far for the leg. And one of the things I'm doing, I don't know if it was visible before, but I'm putting all these things in one group or one folder here, which is good for organizational purposes, and so that's good there. And then now what I want to do is sculpt on this piece a little bit more to have it conform. And so this is going to again like come on top of this part right here and be a piece that handles it. Okay, so one of the things I'm really worried about is that this part here is a little bit thinner than this. So again, in the sake of keeping things big to small, I'm going to add a little bit more room over here to this to make that transition be a little bit better. Okay, so I think for the most part this is done as far as this leg is concerned. And we might need to, so this part over here is going to be, again, some sort of a rubberized or cloth, kind of hard tactical cloth or something like that. And then, of course, the cylinders are going to be hard surface, and this is going to be hard surface, but this is going to be more of a malleable piece. So here, just a couple of things before I am done with this particular leg, is I'm going to go ahead and do some subdividing. So here I'm going to leave smooth off for now and make the first subdivision without smooth on, and then subdivide it a couple more times with smooth on. And let's see what that looks like without the polyframe on. And it adds a little bit of this faceting, which is not what I really want, but I might want it in certain places because, again, I mentioned that this is some sort of a kind of a, you know, maybe some sort of a mesh or kind of a cloth or rubberized piece that basically has some sort of structure to it, and it's reinforced inside by maybe some metallic fibers or something like that. So here just and I'm trying to maybe figure out that these maybe go over this way, and I'll add some sort of a rivet or something that holds it into place, and leave this top part maybe a little bit flatter like this. It's still going over it, but not as much. And then I can go to H polish, and even though this is not really hard surface, I can lightly just touch on here to reduce some of that faceting. And also so the faceting is going to add a little bit of what I need. I just don't want it to show any topology. I just want it to show like it's some sort of a fiber type of a material. And then here, for good measure, I'll just go to Damien Standard and sculpt in some folds. Just really lightly add some folds over here. Like this. And on the other side, just to indicate that this is where this is bending. And again, there's going to be 4 of these, and they're going to be at different angles, so I don't really want them to look exactly the same. So I'm trying to keep these as minimal as possible. And it looks like over here I could add a little bit more to this, which I will do at lower subdivision level in a minute. But I think this basically shows you a little bit of my process of how I would go around doing something like this. And I'm also going to create some sort of a area here, an indentation, to where I'm going to place some sort of rivet or part that basically closes on top of this. And maybe it won't be a rivet, maybe it will be some sort of an attachment, but I'm going to leave this here for now because I like it. And then maybe do this over here, just really roughly adding in some fold lines that would kind of happen when this thing folds. Right, and then the glaring thing that I noticed earlier is that as I was rotating this around, that this area over here was not where it needs to be. So here, again, I'm going down in subdivision levels because it's a minor structural change, and I'm going to bring that out a little bit more so that it's bordering more or less the inside part of that piece right there. Okay, there we go, and then just go back in subdivision levels, so that's good. And then for the cylinders themselves, I also would kind of need to add some subdivisions, and I'm going to leave smooth off for this, or actually leave smooth on. Let's see if this has creases. So I don't think it does. So if I do divide it, it's going to smooth it out like that, and I want the kind of harsh creases on the corners here. So what I'm going to do is just separate this out, go to ZModeler, and choose for the edge here, choose crease, and also crease edge loop complete, and crease that top corner, crease this corner right here, like so, and crease this corner. Do the same thing on the other side, and I probably won't do the same thing to the other one of these. I'll just copy this one over once I'm done with it. All right, so there is, I'm trying to get that angle over here. There we go. So now when I divide this, it will keep those edges nice and sharp. Okay, one more time and one more time. So now I basically can't see the faceting, and this looks like it's a cylindrical part. Now if these angles are too sharp, I will use that technique I did earlier by going into geometry and going into crease and giving those creased edges a bit of a bevel. I think it's complaining to me for me because it tells me I've got subdivision levels. So I'm going to reduce the subdivision levels here and delete them. I don't need them for now. And then add that bevel and just a tiny bit of it, like so. Okay, and then doing the subdivision again. And so that gives me a little bit, that's too soft. Let me turn on polyframe here so I can see it better. I want that bevel to be very, very slight. All right, so here I have to be really light with my touch. Okay, I think I undid it back to a point where there were subdivisions. So no worries, I'll do this from the top here and just create a very, very slight bevel for that angle. All right, so there's that bevel. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. I might increase the resolution of the bevel just by 1 here to get a little bit more geometry in there, and then see what that looks like with dynamic subdiv. Maybe I'll just use dynamic subdiv for it so it looks okay. And so with dynamic subdiv, what I'm going to do here is add one more subdivision level because I went 3 And let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. I think that looks a little bit better. I still would have liked a little bit of a sharper edge there, but I think that's okay. And I think at this point I'm just going to apply the dynamic subdivision to this, and that will take up a lot less geometry than if I were to divide it. So I'm happy with this at this point. So let's go ahead and delete that. Well, I'm going to leave that other one there and make sure that I place this exact one. So go to this one and go to its center. And using control here, I'm going to go ahead and pull a copy of this out. I don't know why this is not working. Let's see here. I've got it. I'm in move mode. I don't have a mask on. It does move, so let's see. I don't know why control isn't moving. Maybe, is there a hidden thing? Let's see. Nope. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this one right here. And I'm going to duplicate this one and move the duplicate over. I should have kept that other one to get the positioning correct, but I think it's pretty straightforward. I think I can just eyeball it to where this one is. Okay, so that's okay for now. And then last but not least, since I did that, I'm going to go switch back to this one, go down in subdivision levels, and use the move tool to move this to accommodate that new shape that I just added, which seems to have shifted just a tiny bit, not a lot, but just some minor movements here. And notice I'm doing all this at lower subdivision levels, so it's nice and responsive, and I am getting faster results. And then just going up in subdivision levels back to where it was, checking the work, it looks okay. And then last but not least, I need to add some subdivision levels to this one over here. And so one subdivision level, I definitely don't want smooth on because I don't want it to soften this up. So I'll go back to geometry here, turn smooth off, divide it a couple of times, and then turn smooth on, divide it one more time. And then just go in with the H-polish brush and maybe tighten up some of these corners a little bit more. But this is just going to be like some sort of a piece. And then I need to decide whether or not I want to put a foot in there or not. So I'll go into my kit bash parts. I think there are some parts that I looked at that looked good for a foot. So let's go ahead and do that next, where we just... Okay, so this is what the leg's going to look like. And so now we'll go into the kit bash parts, and I'm going to go into these ones right here, where there's quite a few of them. Put it on solo, and let's see if I can find those kit bash parts. I'm going to stop the video, find it, and then come back. And here we go. These are the two that I want, so let me go ahead and select them. Like so, use my macro, and then switch back to that leg, and switch off of solo, and then bring them in by using paste. There they are. And the reason why I brought in these two pieces is because I thought they both looked really good, and I want to use both of them at the same time. So here what I'm going to do is mask this one, and then move this one over into it, and see if I can combine them to create some sort of a foot shape that I can use on that Mac. So let's see, that looks okay, like so. And yeah, so now they're all kind of both together. I can place the gizmo 3D in the center of it, and then rotate this around this way and this way, resize it to be smaller, and this is going to be type of a foot that's going to be at the end of this piece right here. Oops. Oh, here we go. That goes there, like so. All right, so I'm just going to minimize the size of this foot to fit into where it's going to go, like right about there, and keep resizing it until it gets to where I want it to be, and maybe angle it a little bit this way so it fits in with the shape that's there, and maybe rotate it a little bit more this way as well. Okay, so this basically is going to be the mechanism that's going to be the foot of the mech, and again, I could probably, again, depending on how, if this is going to be featured in the movie or the game, or be working on it in more detail. But right now, I'm just going to leave it like this because it creates a compelling silhouette for a foot part. I just thought of trying something completely different. Sometimes it's good to turn things completely around and seeing if that works better, and it somehow does. I learned that trick from Blade Runner, where in the first one, where they're in the Tyrell Corporation, the way they had those columns were not the way they were oriented, and Ridley Scott just told them to completely turn the columns around, and that worked. So I've kind of picked that up as a way to design as well. So whenever something doesn't work, I just turn it around 180 degrees, see if that makes it better. Okay, so I think I'm good with the foot right now, and this part is pretty much done. I can get this with materials to look a lot better. The only thing I also want to do is I don't like these kind of blank circles over here, so again, I'm going to go into the Kit Bash kits. So jump back into here, delete these ones because we don't need them anymore. And I think this one right here is exactly what we want, so I'm going to solo that out and see if I can find some sort of a shape in here that would accommodate that area and not be so blank. So here, trying to see which one would be better. Let's see. It's always good to look at these from different angles, but I'm going to choose the top vantage point here and see which one would probably be one that would work best. I am leaning towards this one and possibly this one, but this one has a big hole in the middle. So let's go ahead and again, it's got to fit the design language of what we have so far. So I don't want it to be too intricate, and I don't want these plus signs because we don't really have them anywhere else. So I think either this one over here would work or this one over here would work. But this one has some side cut ends, which I don't really know if we need those. So I think, how thick is this one? I think this one will do just fine. So we'll just go ahead and select this one, like so. And use our macro, copy it, and then go into our kit over here and paste it. Let's resize it down again. Just I think at this point these steps have been repeated enough where you know what's going on, and unsolo it. Okay, and I just need to make this smaller and move it over to here. So at this point I think I'm going to see if I can combine these again. Instead of having to do this a bunch of times, I'm just going to create one of these cylinders with this on it, and then duplicate, and then combine and duplicate them. Right, so here we go. Just find a good place for this to go, like so. Here we go. Just make it fit what's there. Make sure it fits from the side too. I did not realize this was tapered, but it doesn't matter. I think if I put it in this way, I think it works good. And I can, of course, left Boolean this, subtract it from that initial shape as well to get something more, something different. But I think for now, this is going to be okay. All right, so I'm hoping that this is at the center of the universe. So let's see if Mirror and Weld just puts one on the other side. And it does not. Let's see, where did it put it? Probably created, yeah. So I think I've chose the wrong direction for the Mirror and Weld. So let's go ahead and choose, I think Z is what we need. Mirror and Weld it in Z, not X. There it is. Oh yeah, that's almost a perfect fit. And yeah, I think I might even be able to, yeah, let's try and do that. So if I just control drag one out, I'll just have a copy of it over here and place it on this one, like so. So some minor adjustments, but it's there. So here we go. This is what the final leg is going to look like, and it looks official, and we're good with it. So the last one I'm probably not going to even time lapse because I'm going to be using exactly these two techniques to do it. So this last leg over here, I'll probably use this same technique to do it, and I probably will use some of these parts and then use kit bash parts for the rest. So at the end of this, you will basically have the legs done. And then last two things I need to model here before the mech is completely modeled are the guns and this placement. So I need to, I'll just bring those up so I can remind you what they are. So I need to model that and that. These two parts, and I don't think they're going to take that long, so I will move on to that part next. At this point, we pretty much have the mech all together. I went ahead and modeled the hind leg just like I did with the middle legs, and I placed the middle legs in their sockets. So just pretty much the same exact process to do this one. The only thing I learned when I was making the hind leg is that when these articulate, I wanted the cloth pieces to be separate pieces, so I separated them out. And I did the same thing, kind of retrofitted the hind legs so that there's one piece here, and one little piece here at the base. So that's the only difference, and now we kind of can see what the entire thing looks like. And it works as a primary shape. So here in silhouette, we see the silhouette pretty much along the lines of what we wanted earlier, and it's working for us. And then also we have pretty much the secondary shapes established here. The only thing we need to do is sculpt the guns and also do some tertiary shapes with alphas and whatnot on the hull and possibly on the guns and the legs. So let's get started with that.